Welcome back to Chatty and Saltfish. I am Andrew. It's been a while. I am joined with Moses and Mansor. What's going on, guys?
Hey, all good.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Are you keeping well still? Keeping well during lockdown?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
are we still in lockdown? That's a...
Technically you should be, but
but yeah, I'm keeping well.
yeah, good. I think we should just get straight into stuff, because there has been some madness, and the first madness I want to start to happen like literally the other day. Like Mr. Kanye West is running for presidency. Yeah. He said that a while ago, but he had his speech just the other day. Did you guys catch the speech?
I saw the highlights.
Yeah, I saw what's been going around on social media, so I didn't watch the whole
Yeah.
thing, but
Because it was like an hour-long rally, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, and he
I
didn't
saw
have a
that.
microphone.
Really?
No, he was just talking.
Projection. Wow.
Literally.
His lungs are clearly fine in this pandemic.
mind you, the where he was looked quite small. Like I think he would have been able to project himself quite nicely. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think too
Okay.
many people turned up. I don't know the numbers though. I don't know the numbers.
And he's wearing like a bulletproof vest or something, like a security vest or something, some army vest.
That sounds like
Like he
Kanye.
didn't have a microphone. I don't know why man didn't have a microphone. But did you catch some of the main points that he was?
I heard a bit about Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
What are we doing first? Are we going with the slavery part or the abortion part? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
Okay. No. Yeah. Because I have it here. Yeah. I think we should go with the book. We're gonna start with the abortion part. What did he say? He a few of the key things that he said was there'll be no Kanye West because my dad was too busy if he had an abortion. So he's advocating not to have abortions. Like he's like, I almost killed my daughter, even if my wife were to divorce me after the speech, she brought North into this world. So he was kind of promoting the idea of like no abortion. But then he goes on to say that he believes it should remain legal and people should have the right choice. Um, and everybody that had a but like I don't even know what he's on about. Like he promotes one thing about abortion and then he goes the other way about pro-choice, but I don't really know what his stance is. What do you guys think?
Listen, man. I love the artist that is Kanye West. The
Still,
artist.
yeah.
Yeah, still. I got a lot of time for the artistry of Kanye West. But outside of that, the man, there's a lot of damage that's gone on there.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of, and people say, I don't know how much I sort of buy into the whole bipolar. There's definitely some sort of mental instability for sure.
Yeah.
But I was on Twitter just today, and some girl put it. I had a cousin who was bipolar, or she was I say was because she passed away, but she was bipolar, and a lot of bipolar people or sufferers came on Twitter today and were like, "Yeah, I'm bipolar, but I don't suddenly come out with false slave narratives. Like that's just not a part of the condition." You know what I mean? So it's like people like to throw that in the mix, like just because you're bipolar, you're gonna come out with outlandish statements. It's like that's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
he's definitely not been the same since his mother passed away. And it was kind of, I don't know, like I said, I haven't watched the whole thing, but he just doesn't seem okay, personally, to me. So it's kind of like an uncomfortable watch. I mean, it's bad anyway, but when you kind of separate the art from the artist and just look at him as like a human, I'm a bit like, mate, there's, and where are your friends? Where are your family? Where are your people that should be protecting you at a time like this? Like, they just let man go out there with no mic. I can't even say with a mic. Let man go out there a cappella and just go ham again, So yeah, man. Like I don't know if I can watch the full thing because I am such a big fan of the artist that is Kanye. And like, I don't know the man, but it's kind of sad when you can see someone that's not stable and like being given a platform for people to kind of just laugh at. It's like, what Dave Chappelle says, where he's like, I can tell the difference when people are laughing at me and not with me. You
Yeah.
get me? for the past, couple of years, people have been laughing at him, which isn't, it's not nice. But
No, but do you feel? I mean, because clearly, I mean, based on the rants and ramblings that have been happening for years, it's like it seems like when you're in the public eye, you kind of make yourself a target for this, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
Like
I mean,
you can't help. I mean, we all see the instability, but when you openly say things like this, I mean, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people. Like,
So do you know what? I was actually on Twitter. I want to go back to the abortion thing later, but like what Moses said is totally true. The artist, genius, but the
still
man,
genius.
yeah. Oh, as a like some of his old school stuff, I,
Even
yeah, it's
that
right
song
up
that
there.
he just going do for ages.
No, but
I
clearly,
he's still making bangers, man. He's still
but
doing good music.
you can, yeah, you can agree or you can disagree, but I think
All
like
right.
it's there was a bit of context added to that Harriet Tubman comment, and I don't want to defend him, but I do think when I saw the whole part of what he said, it um, it made a bit more sense. And his thing, I think, was, and like you guys are welcome to correct me here. I think it was more that there's been a like a perpetuation of racism in spite of the fact that Harriet Tubman did what she did. But I think his words were really wrong, and I think that is a display of his mental state because that wording, which has been cut out in that clip, is factually wrong. And so it's so easy to take out of the wider context of what he said afterwards, which got a few cheers, and I can see why. So I think like it's symptomatic of the man who really isn't well. I'm not a mental health specialist. I don't know if it is bipolar, but he's clearly not well. And I just think, that whole stuff about the abortion stuff. I mean, listen, if any of you guys shamed your women like that, I would slide tackle you, because
Yeah.
he really shamed her. Like, I think he embarrassed her. And he embarrassed himself, but he embarrassed her. And, like, it was so anecdotal. It wasn't really the campaign rally of a serious contender. It was about him rather than his vision and that whole nonsensical stuff about £1 million for everybody that has a kid or something like
Yeah.
that. Doesn't really make sense. So you can see that these are just like the ramblings of a man that's not well. He's clearly not a serious contender for president because I think he missed like a whole load of deadlines as well. So it's just like it's a shame really that's someone's downfall can be so widely publicized, but I think he's not the first person. He won't be the last person.
No, he's not the first artist to do it either.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, it's like, at least when I think there's a way artists that have done it in the past have done it to make like a statement and have been like quite even artistic in their approach to it. But because for a long time when I was seeing this Kanye 2020, I thought he was trolling. To be fair, I was like, he's not serious.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was like a self-promotion type thing. Yeah.
So then when I saw the actual clip, I was like, oh no, like.
I think, but there are some people that they're still asking, like, is this man actually serious, or is this, what is this? And I think, I don't think he's serious. I think there is just
no, but same people said that about Trump, and isn't it where there's a time where you think it's like people make a statement to vote for the most ridiculous candidate to prove a point, and pushing Kanye West further forward. I mean, that could happen. We've seen. I mean, when I saw Brexit and Trump elected so very soon after each other, you realize that nothing is impossible. Like you can't have too much hope with the human race making the right decisions.
Yeah, But
if
I
he's
don't know.
rambling
Like,
about £1 million for everyone that had a baby, the thing
listen,
is though, there's a
America's
lot of Americans that might think, yes, he's gonna stick to his campaign promise.
Mm.
America's already bankrupt, really. So I mean that can't. It's morally bankrupt, but
I was about to
financially,
say, Jimmy, morally or
it's
financially.
yeah, it's it's well in the age of decadence, and now it's also in the age of distraction. And I think he's a symptom of that. He's not the first symptom of that. Trump himself is a symptom of that. But I don't know. I don't take him seriously. I still don't take him seriously because I think his it's interesting because Trump is unwell. People don't really say it, but he's unwell up there. Biden is
People say it all the
unwell.
time.
Yeah. But Biden is unwell, like he's got the whole forgetting things and stuff like that. And like Kanye's unwell. So
hang on though. Not that I'm sorry to pause there. Not that I'm defending Biden, but the only reason I can give him a slight blight is because man was actually a serious prisoner of war. Like, I'm sure there's some meetings that head has took that if he forgets a thing or two, I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, but yeah.
There's actually some damage, some concussion damage.
That's just,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, irrespective of that, don't you think it's strange that basically all the people we're talking about, none of them, and I want to choose my words carefully here, none of them are cognitively well equipped? Like, that's quite strange, don't you think? We're in this age where all these people that are being spoken about, two of whom are serious contenders, like none of them really have it going on upstairs to do a thing. And I just think, like, Kanye's little outburst, I think if I want to contextualize it, I don't really see it as any more or less worse than Biden or Trump, especially Trump. You know what? We have to be true. It's just that Kanye mentioned factual inaccuracies about slavery. Trump mentions Trump talks factual inaccuracies all the time.
So does Boris.
Yeah. So really, I actually, in a strange way, I put these men all on a par with each other. It's just that Kanye, the meltdown is a bit more overt to the naked eye. Like I pray for him. I pray for him. I pray for him because he needs help, man. I actually think, you know what? When you marry into that family,
you think that?
be careful who you marry into. Like that's me. I'm not, I don't want to catch a case with the Kardashians. I'm just saying.
No, but I do generally think like the consensus with, like, usually it's time to like the memes and the rants and the ramblings, and like people would go hard on someone that completely collapses. But I think that everyone is actually more concerned for Kanye after seeing this than, because this is the most that you see into, and such inaccuracies. Like, they're not, like you said with the Tubman thing. I mean, usually people be like, Kanye, you're cancelled for saying this, but they're more like, Kanye, oh, you're right. Like, you can't say this, and it's more of a concerning situation.
I mean, I like from a race, from and talking within the lens of race and racism, the Tubman thing is just, Harriet Tubman thing is just like, it's factually incorrect, and we all know it's factually incorrect. So I think this is just my opinion, I think the mood is less about offense compared to some of the other stuff that he said about Black issues. Do you know what I mean? Previously, where I think that offense has been greater. I think now people are just in a state of concern for the man. And you know what?
Yeah.
I get that. I do get that.
Yeah.
But as well, like, imagine you're a kid, like, and you hear that your parents were going to abort you. You're not you should never mention that stuff at a political rally or anywhere else. Because that kid's going to grow up just thinking, what?
And especially, she's young, but she's not beyond the age of comprehension. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And internet, kids these days are on the internet. I don't doubt the girl's probably on YouTube or whatever. So it's just like, boy, Pray
Yeah,
for the man. Pray for the man. You know what I mean? We need
yeah.
more albums. We need more collabs. We need more.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm all for respecting your parents, but I think I don't know if I heard my parents were telling random people like that type of a story about me.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Not on. You have to run them.
But you make a good point though, man. So like, I think that's why I kind of was like, even when I wasn't sure if it was true, I had to be intellectually fair. I'm like, well, if Trump is president, you can't intellectually tell me Kanye can't have a chance. Because I'm like, this man was a real estate TV apprentice mogul that now is the president of the United States. He was a reality TV star. So I'm like, if that, that is so ill-equipped to do his job. So I'm like, if I have to be fair, I'm like, well, why can't Kanye? Not that I wanted to, but you know what I mean? Like, you've created such a sad precedent, with, electing one of the most incapable people in our history of politicians. Like,
yeah, but then shouldn't there be an upward trajectory rather than just keeping it a steady decline or the same level?
I mean, it should be, but here we are.
America's been on a decline for the last however many years. I mean, it's just because now you're really in like the what's the word, cesspit. You're really in the where you get the dregs that everybody realizes, but really it's been on a downward decline for however many years. So this is just something I think which we can contextualize wider within that national context. It's a mess. But arguably you could say Kanye is cleaner than Trump. Like if we talk about, isn't it, man?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You might want to call him a house Negro. You might want to call him whatever. But I mean, like some of the rumors that are out there about Donald Trump, which we probably shouldn't go into.
No. Yeah.
You don't hear those rumors about Kanye West. Kanye West is just this figure of ridicule.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Sorry, I was gonna say, what I want to know though, like, what is on this man's mind that every time he gets a platform, he says some ahistorical fact about slavery? Do you remember the last one? Do you remember the last one? He was like, slavery was a choice. I was like, why does it always go to slavery for him? Like, what's going on?
I think he's trying to support black people by saying the word. Like, I feel like he feels like he's encouraging or protecting or bringing black people up. I feel like that's what he thinks he's doing, but he just doesn't phrase it. Like, he doesn't go through someone to tell him how you get your point across without sounding insane.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think, like, for example, if one of us turned around to the other bunch and said, do you know what, I'm gonna use my platform to talk factual inaccuracies about slavery. So the backlash I get means that everybody learns the facts. I'd say you're actually doing a nonsense, Like you need to just like somebody needs to sit him down and say, look, whether you're well or you're not well, don't talk about that topic because you're not equipped.
Yeah, but you can't say that to someone that doesn't want to. For instance, if he's not well and he goes in front, you can tell him that before he gets on stage. Don't say that. But when he gets on stage, he's gonna say it because he does.
You keep him in his yard, man. Keep him in his yard.
We have to remember he is managed by Kris Jenner.
Moses, I think.
So
Moses finished it.
Yeah, I mean, like, read into that what you will. Do you get me? Like, there's always gonna be some degree of salacious tabloidism or some. There's always gonna be, because that's how they stay relevant. Do you get me?
They have to.
It's sad, man. So pray for Kanye, man.
Pray for Kanye. Hashtag.
Staying in the celebrity sphere and comments in the celebrity sphere, people talking celebrity sphere. I want to talk to you about Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon getting fired from his own show. Nick Cannon, why now? This is after he made anti-Semitic comments, some of which include saying that black people are the true Hebrews and that it's never hate speech. You can't be anti-Semitic when we are the Semitic people. That's what he could have saying on this podcast. That caused backlash from the producers of what Nick Cannon wilding out. I can't remember what the
Yeah.
But
By
yeah,
him, isn't it?
back from the show.
Yeah.
He released an apology afterwards, talking about how he thinks he should be better. He should be better educating himself and that. But I'll look for the apology. I'll have it confirmed. But what's your initial take on Nick Cannon's withdrawal from Nick Cannon wilding out?
There's a lot in this. This is a very loaded topic, right? So I'm gonna start. I just find it funny, right? I think if you're gonna say something in this day and age, I think you should just say it. And like when the backlash, because you could say something completely nothing. I'm not even talking about with this scenario. We often see it. Like, I think people are very pressured into apologies. And the only reason I'm saying with this, obviously, I'm not condoning anti-Semitism or racism or anything at all. But the only reason I say this is in this context, it's a bit weird because this came from a clip of him in Cannon's class, which is his own production on YouTube. Yeah. And he had Professor Griff, who he was interviewing, who is like a Hotep, level 1,000. So my thing is, if you've gone to the length of getting a Professor Griff, like who lives and breathes, 10 times what Nick said in that small clip every day, like to me, it's like if you then come and apologize, does it really hold any weight? Because it's just like, but hang on a second, you're apologizing for what you said, but in the context of everything, nobody's really being like, but hang on. If this is anti-Semitic, why did he give a platform to a man that also, you know what I mean? It would be like me, I don't know, interviewing Abu Hamza and then somebody cussing me for saying something anti-Islam. Do you get me? But ignoring the fact that I've got Abu Hamza right next to me. You get me? Like, so that's for me. It was just a bit like, hang on, this is a bit odd. So he's not.
No, but that's like saying, could you say, if you had an interview if a white guy had an interview with you, could he say something about black people and then be like, no, but I got a black person with me right now on their platform?
No. That's not the same thing. What I'm saying is like, have you ever checked out much of Professor Griff? It's like,
no, I haven't watched him.
This is what he's about, bruv.
Okay.
Black people are this for the original. Like, that's his rhetoric. You get me? So my thing is like, okay, Nick Cannon said what he said, and he apologized. But also, I'm like, but hang on, you must have meant it because you went through the degree of getting Professor Griff on your platform. You get me? And giving him a platform to chop it up. That conversation didn't come out of nowhere, right? That was my first thought. I thought this is a bit odd because either he really means this apology or he's just really scared. Do you get me? And I just feel like he's really scared because ultimately, I guess, a successful and I do respect Nick Cannon because he's done a lot of good things, philanthropy. He's done a lot of community things. He's one of those celebrity. Not that I'm into celebrity culture like that, but as a person, when you kind of look behind the man, there's I don't think he's a joker. You know what I mean? And what he's kind of built over the years as an actor and a producer and a creator, I do respect. But it always comes back to this thing, and I mean, we've kind of spoken to it on this podcast where, ultimately, if you don't own your things, bro, do you get me? If you're not in control of your product or your brand, and you are essentially an employee, and it's unfortunate at this time his employees deemed we didn't like what you said, you're fired. Do you get me? And this brand that we all know, wilding out,
they're gonna have to take his name off of it.
Huh?
They're gonna have to take his name off of it.
Yeah, he has to take his name off it. And what can you do? Like, you know what I mean? So for me, as much as like, I'm not trying to go down the route of like what he said or whether it was right or wrong, because that's not even where I'm coming from. I think what is a bigger thing to talk about is like, I'm looking forward to the day when black people have control over their product and their means of distributions to the point where, could you imagine if David Starkey came on the news and said some nonsense and we could fire him? Yo, why? Do you get me? But like, it's just crazy. And like,
what? So like,
you know what I mean? Like,
so did he really own the show? Like, he didn't really own the show, which is
he didn't. He didn't. Do you get me? And that's why I'm like, to me, it's not even about anti-Semitism or racism. Yes, I'm against that for sure. But I'm like, hang on a second. How many times have we seen racism on platforms? Do you get me?
Yeah.
How
And the
many
worst
times
part
have we
is then you see the man coming back to the show, coming back to the
You know what
studio.
I mean? You know, like little apology, or sometimes not even an apology. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah,
people still have their job. So like, and it's a shame because like I think Nick Cannon's track record kind of speaks for itself. Do you get me? I don't believe he's racist. I think he was just sat next to Progressive Griff
So,
and just got gassed. Do you get me?
yeah. No, so when
Definitely.
like I mean, speaking from like when I read I think it was particular the second was particular to the True Hebrews comment, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
So the idea, like, I'm just trying to understand in terms of where the anti-Semitism basically would hit people in this comment when he's saying that he feels that black people are the true Hebrews. Like,
Well,
it's
I
not
think
slur per se, is it? So
no, the anti-Semitism accusation came more from his suggestion that the idea about Jewish conspiracies where Jewish people own basically the means to production, and and they, the idea that they rule everything and it's sort of behind closed doors or hidden, and it's like this hidden society, but you don't know about it, XYZ. And then I think that thing that you mentioned was his response, where he said what he said couldn't be anti-Semitic because black people were the original Hebrews, yeah. So the anti-Semitism charge came more from the whole conspiracy thing about Jewish people ruling the world, quote unquote. I mean,
but you see, that's like a running joke in a lot of comedies. South Park, for instance, Family Guy, like every cartoon you see. But it's a different platform where you're saying like he basically means it. It takes the humor away from it. That's where it gets like the line drawn. Because how can you make cartoons like South Park where they basically say that kind of stuff, but then they can still they can still be aired.
Yeah. I mean, it's like some of these like Sacha Baron Cohen skits, where the same thing is alluded to, but I guess because people might say he is Jewish, so he can sort of get away with it. And I think what Moses said, the point where he used David Starkey as an example, is probably a really, really good point. That cancel culture focuses to a large extent not on what is said, but who says it. Do you know what I mean? It's very selective. This is my opinion. Moses didn't necessarily say this, but he'll correct me if I'm wrong. But I think his idea was that there's a disproportionate outcome for different people depending on who they are. And I think that's true. And I think that's what cancel culture really is. It's not so much what people say, but who says what. And I mean, Starkey, for example, just a few weeks ago said he compared slavery with the Holocaust. I don't know if any of you guys heard this.
That's why I brought him up.
Yeah, and he said, he said the Holocaust was worse than slavery because at least with slavery, after it was over, there were still too many, and this is his words, there was still a whole lot of damn black people or something like that to that effect. I mean, yeah, which to me, at least verbatim, sounds a lot worse than what Nick Cannon said. But cancel culture is selective, and I think the charge of anti-Semitism is once you get that label attached to you and it sticks, rightly or wrongly, it's almost like there's no coming back from that. And I think that's dangerous, not because I want to defend anti-Semites, because I don't, but I think it's dangerous when we just throw a label on somebody who, as Moses said, probably just got gassed up by his company, the company that he was with. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a dangerous thing. And it's probably something that needs to be spoken about in its own right. I just take this as something that is a lot more minor in a list of examples from different individuals. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's factually incorrect as well, some of the stuff, when you charge people as anti-Semitic. We saw it in this country, because when you really boil down to it, like, I think the narrative people frame what is acceptable within the narrative, and the charge of anti-Semitic has often been associated to anti-Jew. But you know, that is a man-made narrative. Like, the term Semitic actually stands for people who speak Semitic languages, and that includes a lot of Black people, especially in the Horn of Africa. It includes Arab people, it includes Jewish people. And so if we want to be really true and not engage in cancel culture, then we have to call anti-Semitism more widely than just people who have bad, disgusting prejudice against Jewish people. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, probably some of the worst anti-Semitism is like the forced sterilization of Ethiopian refugees in Israel. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them claim to be Jewish, but it's forced sterilization, and that's anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Or like you see anti-Semitism by Israel against the Palestinian Arab population. Well, that could be considered anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to be, I think, honest and accurate with what the definition of Semitic and Semitism is. And then when you do that, I think you get a more legitimate, in my opinion, you get a more legitimate feeling when you want to throw somebody like Nick Cannon under the bus. But otherwise, it's just like you're picking and choosing. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why that's why when I see this issue here, I just sort of, like, you know, that emoji with the head in the hands. That's what it feels like, because it's selective to the man rather than the issue. Why? Maybe you could argue there's a Black man with a platform in America, maybe, and at this time, in this day and age, maybe that is something to be wary of as Americans. Maybe it's that. Do you see what I mean? Or like when we had Jeremy Corbyn, who was the Labour leader, and a lot of people were scared about the outcome of him becoming prime minister potentially. So what? Slap anti-Semitism on him. But real people who are anti-Semitic or who have bad prejudices, some of them will get away with it. Why? Because maybe they're more in line with the dominant view, which suits whoever that may be. And it's not necessarily just Jewish people. It could be anybody. So that's why I don't like this story. And that's why I actually feel for Nick Cannon. I think he's a solid guy from what I know about him.
Yeah. Like, I agree with Mansor. I think Nick, from what I know, is a solid dude. And I think he kind of just got a bit gassed because he was sat next to Professor Griff. And it's a shame, because when you look at it in the grand scheme of his career, he's built up the brand of wilding out only to get it pulled from underneath him overnight. So for me, it serves such a bigger lesson. We need to own our things.
Yeah, you're going.
Not only like to protect yourself from, one, being an employee that someone could just fire you, but two, also being able to, you know, equally have the same power to institute, if you hear anything on your platforms or in your work or in your business that you don't agree with and doesn't adhere to your policies, whether that be racism, transphobia, homophobia, sexism, you too can be like, you're out, you get me? And I think collectively as a community, we don't have that. So we need to kind of strive to build that. And I think that to me was the biggest take home. Do you get me? I don't believe he's anti-Semitic. I don't believe he's racist at all.
I mean, on that, like, that's what I read something. That's what Master P said when he said that he feels like Nick Cannon shouldn't have to apologize, because he said he feels like Nick wouldn't have had to say sorry if he didn't have to worry about losing his job. Like, he feels like like, why would he have to say sorry for something that he believes? And it's not that, essentially, like, he just went to do that just so he could stay in a job, essentially, and he still
you know, because there's a large percentage of people out there that believe Black people are the original Hebrews, and I'm not gonna come and say whether I do, because I don't know. I haven't done the research. You know what I mean? It sounds very hoteppy to me. I need to see the
Hyde Park Speaker's Corner.
You know what I mean?
Right there,
but equally, if I haven't done the research to disprove it, I'm not going to go in their face and be like, you're wrong, get me? So I'm like, whatever, show me the evidence and we'll talk. But that's something I haven't given much time or thought to be fair. But like, that is a reality. You get me? That is a reality. There are people that believe that. And I don't believe, I know that wasn't the whole context of what he said, but you know what I mean? Like, I think there's context that has to be used when you look at that. There are, especially in America, there's a huge proportion of the sort of Hotep and, the sort of the black radicals. You got Professor Griff on your platform, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I don't believe he's racist, anti-Semitic, but I think he's done a good job in building other things, other businesses and other productions. And it's a shame he didn't own Wilding Out, because that's probably what he's most known for. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say it's it kind of took a cloak off, and it surprised it kind of, when you think moguls, black moguls, you think of the empire that it kind of made, and for this to say that he can get sacked from his own show, I was thinking, how do you get sacked from your own show if you're the one that owns the show? But it just goes to show that he, like, he could be offended. I'm not backing his point or whatever. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, it shows that even the ones that we think are actually in a position of power, there's still someone pulling strings behind, that we haven't actually still got our black our black empire, basically. We still haven't got those. For if a white man says something racist, we can be like, get off my channel completely. We can't do that. We'll be like, we'll suspend him and we'll bring him back later.
We can't even do that. We have to go to change.org. Do you know what I mean?
You're right.
We have to start a petition.
You're right, because I think like
who owns BET?
I did see a post about this actually. I feel it is Viacom. But it's not black. It's not black at all.
No.
None of them are. None of them are.
No, well, man.
Sadly, BET, The Source magazine, Def Jam, all of the
everything that we consume,
basically. Black.
The thing is, I think as well, because I think a lot of people conflate if a black man has like a show or is the face of a show or something, you conflate maybe the wealth you assume they get from that with them owning that. And I think that's why sometimes when things like this happen, there is that sense of surprise there, because you almost don't think about it. So I think as a community, black people also have to, they're not every black person is guilty of this, and other people from other races will also be guilty of this, but we have to get away from this idea that like wealth, or the wealth that is earned, automatically means power. Like money is power, that is true, we live in a capitalist world, but in terms of who owns the means of production, sometimes you don't even see their wealth. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think there is an aspect of that to it as well. Like, definitely. Yeah. Like you see, I don't know, even like sports stars. Kind of like, it's not, the industry is different, but it's kind of the same thing. So you'll get like really wealthy individuals, but they're just commodities, And I think we have to move away from that idea of being a commodity and think more about owning commodities. And then we don't just get the safety net of, in this case, protection. When somebody says something which is maybe controversial or other people don't like, we don't just get the safety that comes with owning the means of production, but we also get the ability to thrive. And that's how other communities have done it. And I think that is the template really to follow and try and be better at. Yeah.
Who owns Moses? Who owns Exodus?
Me.
Yeah.
100% mine.
No one can fire you from your thing.
No one can fire me from my thing. Absolutely not. No,
that's how it should be. Yeah.
That's what we need.
And when you have your own business, you enter this portal and you kind of just do see the world very differently. And I understand it. You get me? Listen, there are times I wish I could just take a check and somebody could just be the boss. But I'm like, nah, because if everybody did that, well, I mean, everyone does that. We're in this situation now. You know what I mean? So, I think everybody should I mean, at least if you're in business or
Yeah.
trying to be in business, everyone should have their own. It doesn't mean you're going to be like your EMIs, your Virgin, your Universal. You know, you don't have to be the monopoly, but
Yeah.
you just have to have something. Do you know what I mean?
Some
Like,
control.
some control that at the end of the day, you're good. Do you get me? You understand production on the level enough to be good, and you can ultimately feed yourself. You know what I mean, man? I think maybe because of my world, I'm more forced into it, but I think there's still overlap in most industries, whether it's not creative or whatever, to kind of have your own thing on the side. You know? Yeah.
Cool. All right then. So I think one last topic we should talk about, before we sign out, is you mentioned it, Shamima Begum. This is like part whatever 2, 3. I don't know. Like I think the return, the recap,
the return, the reunion tour.
Yeah. The question is, should she be allowed back in the UK to fight for her right to be a British citizen?
Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Absolutely.
Moses.
Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah.
I wish we had Mandela for this.
Listen, I don't want any terrorist here. Like,
Yeah,
so there's my moral compass, and then like there's what I know about the law, right? Like, she is British. Like, the fact that they managed to spin that narrative, I'm like, hang on, how can you determine somebody stateless, and then these times Bangladeshi are saying she's not Bangladeshi? So, like, my argument for this always was, particularly with black people as well, was what we need to be very careful of, because her story and the Windrush scandal, they're not the same, but they're almost related. Because they're intertwined in a very interesting way, because Shamir was almost like, how can I say it? We had to watch that story very closely, because it served a very dangerous precedent if we believe somebody can overnight be rendered stateless by their actions. And the reason I say this, I'm just trying to, maybe I'll Google it while somebody else is talking. But there was another story in 2015 of a white woman in her 30s, who was radicalized and became an ISIS bride. I'll find her name for you. And she was allowed to return back to the UK. And even to this day, she lives in a community. Nobody makes a fuss about it, right?
She reformed as well.
Yeah, exactly, reformed. Now, comparatively to a teenage ISIS, teenage person that got radicalized, of Bangladeshi origin, but she is British, goes and now wants to come back. For me, I'm like, as particularly black people, we need to watch this story very carefully, because it basically says, if Shamir can do that, and don't get me wrong, ISIS is bad, Daesh is bad, I'm not for it. However, the idea that your crimes can render you stateless is dangerous, because we've got aunties and uncles that didn't even commit crimes that are being rendered stateless and homeless because of this Windrush scandal, much less you do a little 5-finger discount or get a speeding ticket or whatever. You know what I mean? This country wants to cleanse. Do you get me?
I agree with you. It causes it sets a precedent in terms of there's going to be a line that gets drawn to say, that means technically, can you be a citizen for breaking X rule or this rule? But do you not feel that some things, the line for me is a threat to the country, like an actual threat, like that can be a threat to the country, physical threat to the country. And you kind of, when you renounce your own British citizenship, that you basically renounce it yourself, then what's to say I don't like this here, therefore give me back what I had before because I don't like this now? Why? How can you sample something like that and then they say you don't like it, so let me come back? Well, Mansor, what are you thinking? You look like you.
Sorry.
Mansor looks like he's got words.
You know what it is, yeah? It's really good because my stance hasn't changed from the last podcast, which I think is always a good thing, because it means that, like, in my head, I feel so right. Do you know what I mean? But I actually don't think she should be allowed back into this country yet. The reason, I think what Moses said is true. Like, there is this insidious motive to whitewash criminals and where possible to do things with racist undertones. But for me, I look at this from a legal standpoint, and that is Shamima Begum went to Syria, committed a crime. She should not be allowed back here. She should be tried in Syria and serve time in Syria. And that is for me, that's the legal thing. Like, if you ever see these shows like Banged Up Abroad, I don't know if you man watch that.
That is my show.
Exactly.
That is my show.
And you go to Thailand and Cambodia and whatever, and you're shuffling drugs about. The British people don't say, "Oh yeah, bring Tom back here and let him do his." No, they dash you in that jail and you turn into a wet quilt. Yeah, and it's the same thing here. Like, she should just listen. She should undergo a trial in Syria because she committed her crimes in Syria. And listen, they have capital punishment there. Yeah, so if she survives that, and she actually does serve time, after she serves that, she should be sent back here. But because she committed crimes there, and you know what, her crimes were really bad. A lot of people are talking about, she was radicalized. That's because people don't really, or they've forgotten what she did. She may not have killed somebody, but she was a willing participant in the displacement of Syrian people from their own home. So when we talk about Syrian refugees, there are Syrian refugees that left forcibly, had to leave their home. She took over and actually decided, oh, do you know what? I'm entitled to that. That's a crime. That's a crime. Whether it's by the Geneva Convention or Syrian law or whatever type of legal framework you want to look at, that's a grave crime. Yeah. When you see those Syrian refugees that were on boats and the boats had sunk and they were starving in Turkey and whatever else. So for me, she's committed a crime there. She should serve her time there. And bear in mind, and this is it, I don't think Britain should relinquish all its responsibility, but she should serve time there if she doesn't get capital punishment. And Britain should fund that period of time she's there. And then
why should Britain have to fund that time? I mean, what, just because she's a citizen?
Not necessarily. I don't know if legally they're entitled to, but for me, morally, it's the right thing, because this country was so ready to try and overthrow that government there and create chaos. So for me, a goodwill gesture in the smallest token is you say, you know what, this is our citizen. She serves time there, and we give you the money to look after her. And then once she serves that time, then you have to bring her back here because she is your responsibility. She's not the responsibility of Syrian people. But because she committed a crime there, she has to serve her time there. She has to. And you know what? This is going to be really controversial. But if under Syrian law she's tried and they say, you know what? We don't want you to serve time here. You have to be hung. That's what you have to do. I wouldn't lose any sleep over that personally. I'm not saying I would advocate it, but that's the law there. But if that isn't the case, then once she serves her time, you have to bring her back here because she is British.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I'm saying, Mo, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like it's okay for her to actually? What about her serving time there? Not coming over here?
Listen. The woman is a criminal. Don't get me wrong. Let's not get this twisted. Wherever she should serve time, I agree with you, Mansor. She committed crimes on their soil. I guess because of what's going on politically, it's a bit tricky. But she should be tried there. Do you get me? Don't get me wrong. But we are where we are. Do you get me? Like, somehow she's found a way to get out and is somewhere halfway and trying to get back to England. My thing is, yeah, she could be a threat. Dash her away. I don't know if we can legally do that. Whatever. Lock her up. There are prisons. I was just watching the HMP Belfast documentary where they've housed so many terrorists and, you know, people related to IS and Al Qaeda. It's not like we don't have adequate facilities. I just want to bring up the woman's name, Lisa Smith, who was actually granted bail. And this is an article of 20th of December 2019 from Ireland. She's 37. She's from Belfast. She did the same thing, and nobody is talking about this.
But when did you say what year?
This article is from 2019, 20th of December. And this isn't even the woman initially. This is me doing a bit of Googling and came across somebody else. A white woman from Belfast who was also radicalized, returned to Ireland and had been granted bail. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm like, look at what's going on here.
But do you feel like maybe a trial for citizenship is a bad precedent? Like in terms of like for her atrocities, do you feel like not saying we just revoke your citizenship? Do you feel like they should be able to like have a trial to say you have breached there, but you don't think your citizenship should be able to be revoked at all?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Not at all. Personally, I can't think of anything. No, I can't. I mean, we don't live under a monarch. You get me? Like that anymore. You get me? It's not like you could do treason and the Queen could be like, you know, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? If it was a different time, I could see how that could happen. But in 2020, I'm like, I don't think you can do anything that should be able to strip you of your nationality. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, dash her in prison. Don't get me wrong. Like, let the girl serve her crimes. I don't care. She was a kid, but Mansor said it right. She done some awful thing. And if that means she stands trial in Syria as well as in the UK, so be it. But my argument is more for she is British, whether people like it or not. She is the British citizen. So it's like the argument of like, should she come back? I'm like, of course she should come back. If, you know, failing, obviously, she has.
Do you want her back, though?
I don't want her back. But what can I do? Do you know what I mean? I don't want Tommy Robinson. I don't want Boris, but they're British too. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, them man are equally responsible for radicalization, and they know what they're doing. So I'm like, where do we draw the line? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I'm like, it serves a very dangerous precedent we have to pay attention to, because I'm like, if essentially you're saying, yeah, don't get me wrong, terrorist-related charges are a serious crime. But ultimately, the precedent is you can commit a crime and you can be rendered stateless. We got a lot of worrying to do. It's like people of, I don't want to say people of color, but you get what I'm saying? Because the minute you do anything, you watch, like, what? You got 6 points on your drive. Oh, when you get 12 more points on that license, you better be, you know, you can't find your birth certificate. Oh, and that's what's happening. Do you know what I mean? People that were, and you know what I mean? People that were actually citizens of the Commonwealth. Do you get me? Came over, had kids, built up this country, and then to 20 years, you know, not 20 years, 2020, Amber Rudd and these nonsense people, do you know what I mean? Be like, where's your paperwork? I'm like, who can find paperwork from there for? Man, so where's your birth certificate? Where's your, do you know what I mean? Like, people have grown. Do you know what I'm saying? So how are you going to ask somebody whose parent came on the Windrush to find documents to prove they're British? Of course they're British.
They'll refer to the Begum case. Everyone will refer to the Begum case if they're trying to get someone kicked out of the
exactly. So that's why I'm like, I don't want her here, and I think what she did is atrocious, and she should, like Mansor said, I'm not trying to put that message across, and hopefully I'm not saying we should just let it go. Like, no. Like,
no, I don't.
Well, I agree with Mansor. I think she should be tried. I think she'd be tried where she commits the crime.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's a difference between, like, Moses, you actually mentioned Abu Hamza, which was a really good example. That man was in prison here for however many years, and in fact, I think different UK governments tried to deport him back to Jordan, and they couldn't do it until eventually they had to give way. And that's my thing. Like, I know people might say, oh, but she was young and she was 14, 15, whatever, and Abu Hamza's a grown-ass man. But for me, she knew what she was doing. There was a conscious thing there. Radicalized or not, I mean, that's a different topic. I don't want to get into it now, but like the act, she committed a bad act, and you know, Abu Hamza committed a bad act. He served his time here until he was forced to leave, and she should also. The only way which she should be allowed back now is if the Syrian government say, look, we don't want her, you take her. and then she should be allowed back now. But I just think, remember, she ran away to a refugee camp. Technically, she shouldn't even be in that refugee. She's not a refugee.
Yeah.
She's not a refugee. If honestly, I'd have just dashed her in the river. I tell you not. Listen, I don't care, man. People can try and cancel me all they want. I don't business. I'd have dashed her in that river and just say, yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Go on.
Mate. Well, man, sorry, I don't want to go too far off topic, but
No, go.
I was just about to send an article before we started this podcast, because have you seen how now Britain have reneged on their Hong Kong, their Hong Kong citizenship ship thing because of tensions with the UK and China. So my thing is like, hang on, you've deported how many black grannies to Jamaica?
Yeah.
You get me? You've got a British girl. Don't get me wrong. She's done some mad things, and now you're telling her you're not British. But then Tutus, you want to give citizenship to 3 million people from Hong Kong, yeah? And then you want to talk about like who's British or not. Do you get me? I'm like, hang on a second. So you do understand about the whole Commonwealth and how this thing works. You get me? When you want to. And like, I mean, they're not identically related, but it reminds me of the story. But and I just found it interesting that now they've gone back on it. And I'm like, I haven't done too much digging and stuff and that. I'm like, I don't know if you had read into it much, Mansor.
I've only seen the headline at the moment, but you're definitely right. And I think the more we can actually use the Windrush as what's the word, like a yardstick, or a measure of comparison for all these different cases, I think is really good, because it not only means that we keep the Windrush at the forefront of our minds, we don't forget how we are seen when the chips are down. We don't forget how we're seen. And I think that's really good that we always keep that comparative element in these discussions. Definitely. But you're right, man. You're right. When this country wants to, they can make it very easy for you to come in and be one of the clan. When they don't,
trust me.
Yeah, man.
All right, so you're Britain through and through. You can't take that away from you, right?
I mean, that is the reality. Whether that's good or bad, it is what it is.
Yeah, man. I always say, you know what? I say, I'm British by circumstance. Yeah, because I was born here, and listen, I know Britain. You know, if you put me anywhere in Britain, I'd be able to whatever. But just by circumstance, anything else, any other measure, they feel the same way. So why can't I feel like that?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think that was a place to leave on, man. Thanks for another little chat, Moses, Mansor. Mandela, if you listen to it, we're gonna find you, man. We're gonna find you.
Yeah, man.
I know you're gonna say more about Shamima. I know you got stuff to say, but thanks for joining us. That's another episode of Chatting Saltfish. You can find us on YouTube and I messed that up. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Chatting Saltfish, and you can listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. It's Chatting Saltfish everywhere. Until next time, peace.